Humans have always had weird desires, but some of these make Google's "I'm feeling lucky" button feel like a cry for help. 1. The woman who fell in love with the Eiffel Tower. Erica Labrie was once a U.S. Army soldier. Then she met the love of her life, 7,000 tons of French steel. She married the Eiffel Tower in 2007, legally changing her last name to La Tour Eiffel. She even had a ceremony, complete with vows and guests. She claimed the tower's structure was perfect and that they shared mutual affection. French authorities didn't officially recognize the union, but that didn't stop her from visiting her husband regularly, touching the metal with reverence while tourists snapped selfies. When asked why she chose a monument, she simply said, "Human relationships are overrated." Somewhere, the Leaning Tower of Pisa just leaned a little harder out of jealousy. 2. The man who wanted to be furniture. Meet Dave from Illinois, or as he prefers to be known, the Ottoman. For years, Dave's deepest wish was to become living room furniture, not metaphorically, literally. He found joy in lying on all fours, covered with a custom leather slip, while friends rested their feet on him during movie night. He even had a name for his dream lifestyle: domestic objectification. Once, he entered a talk show segment titled My Strange Desire, where he calmly explained, "People get to be what they want. I just happen to want to be functional." When the host asked if he ever felt used, Dave grinned. That's the point. Somewhere out there, an IKEA catalog is writing his biography. 3. The woman who eats rocks for comfort. Some people stress-eat chocolate, others, limestone. A woman in Florida confessed to eating rocks for 20 years, claiming they help her feel grounded. She collects small stones, rinses them, and chews them like snacks during stressful moments. Dentists begged her to stop. She didn't. She said the crunch is better than chips, and she even developed a taste hierarchy. Sandstone is savory, slate is refreshing, and marble is too fancy for weekdays. Her friends tried staging an intervention, but she arrived late because she'd stopped on the roadside to pick up dessert. Scientists call it pica. She calls it fine dining from Mother Earth. 4. The guy who fell in love with his car. If you think men love their cars, wait till you meet Nathaniel. He didn't just love his 1999 Chevy Monte Carlo, he was in a relationship with it. Nathaniel named his red coupe Chase, spoke to it daily, and described their intimacy as emotional and physical. He'd polish the hood while whispering sweet nothings and claimed they shared a deep spiritual connection. Friends thought it was a phase, until he brought Chase to a Valentine's dinner and ordered 2 entrees. When a documentary crew asked him to explain, Nathaniel said, "Cars have souls, you just have to listen." He even admitted jealousy toward mechanics, saying, "I don't like when other people touch him." Most people dream of a road trip romance. Nathaniel literally lived one. And yes, he said the hardest part was parking overnight without a cuddle. Psychologists call it objectophilia. Nathaniel just calls it true love with horsepower. Somewhere, Herbie the love bug is filing a restraining order. 5. The man who wanted to become a mermaid. When most kids grow up, they give up childhood fantasies. Tommy from Florida never got that memo. His lifelong dream? To become a mermaid, or, as he insists, merman. He spent years crafting a silicone tail that cost over $20,000, practicing underwater breath holding, and building an entire pool habitat in his backyard. He says transforming into his aquatic self brings peace and purpose. He even teaches mermaiding workshops for adults who feel landlocked by society. Local kids call him Aqua Dad. He claims he's not escaping reality, just making it waterproof. Neighbors thought it was weird until he started getting hired for kids' parties, ocean cleanups, and TV spots. Now he's both a mythical creature and a tax-paying citizen. His parents, once skeptical, now brag, at least he's not doing drugs, just scales. He says he's still waiting to meet his Ariel. Honestly, considering Florida's dating pool, she might already be swimming nearby. 6. The woman who married a ghost. Pirate love knows no boundaries, not even death. Amanda Teague, a 45-year-old woman from Northern Ireland, fell in love with the ghost of a 300-year-old Haitian pirate named Jack. After years of spiritual communication, she held a wedding ceremony, complete with rings, vows, and a boat. She wore white, he wore nothing, being incorporeal and all. Amanda insisted their marriage was deeply passionate, and even hired a medium to speak for Jack during the ceremony. The couple apparently fought over energy issues and different frequencies, which, to be fair, plagues many relationships. Eventually, she announced their divorce, claiming Jack drained her spiritually. When reporters asked why she married a dead pirate, she replied, "He was my soulmate in another life, and better than most living men I've dated." Honestly, hard to argue with that logic. Say what you want, but she's the only person who can honestly say her ex ghosted her, permanently. 7. The woman who's romantically attracted to chandeliers. Amanda Liberty from the UK, yes, another Amanda, what are the odds, is deeply in love with chandeliers. She owns more than 25 of them, each with a name and personality. Her favorite, Lumiere, hangs proudly in her living room and is, by her account, the one. Amanda identifies as objectum sexual, meaning she feels genuine romantic attraction to objects. She says Lumiere's curves are sensual and their glow soothes her soul. She even kisses it goodnight and occasionally takes smaller lamps on dates. When tabloids mocked her, Amanda defended her love. "I'm not hurting anyone, I just love light." She once proposed to Lumiere, though friends say the chandelier's commitment issues keep things complicated. While most people fall for someone who lights up their world, Amanda took it literally. Some chase sparks in relationships. She just went straight to the source of electricity. Honestly, that's commitment on another wavelength. 8. The man who wanted to be a dog. Japan gave us sushi, anime, and now Toko, the man who fulfilled his lifelong dream of becoming a border collie. After spending $14,000 on a hyper-realistic dog costume, Toko finally transformed into his true self. He walks on all fours, eats from a bowl, and practices fetch in his backyard. He even hired animal trainers to perfect his canine movements. When interviewed, Toko said, "I feel free when I'm a dog. Humans are too complicated." His videos went viral, showing him rolling over, being petted, and taking walks in public parks. While some call it bizarre, others see it as harmless escapism, or method acting gone feral. His biggest dream? To join a pack and live among real dogs. Until then, he's content chasing tennis balls and online fame. Society may not understand him, but at least he's finally found his tale of happiness. Literally. 9. The woman who married herself. After one too many disappointing relationships, a woman named Sophie Tanner decided she didn't need anyone else to feel complete. So she married herself. Literally. She wore a white gown, walked down the aisle, and said, "I do," to her own reflection in front of 20 guests and a hired officiant. There were vows, rings, and even a honeymoon. Solo, of course. Sophie said it wasn't about narcissism, but self-respect. "I realized I'm the love of my life," she explained. Her ceremony went viral, inspiring other self-marriages around the world. Some people mocked it, others called it empowering. But Sophie stood by her union, saying, "If you can't love yourself, how can you love anyone else?" Later, she even renewed her vows after a breakup with someone else. When asked if she'd ever remarry, she said, "Maybe, but it would have to be a throuple. Me, myself, and them." Somewhere, an engagement ring just developed trust issues. Say what you will, but she'll never argue about who forgot the anniversary. And that's a power move few marriages can match. 10. The man who eats airplane seats. Michel Lotito, known as Monsieur Mangetout, had an appetite that defied biology and basic logic. The French performer became famous for eating metal, glass, and rubber, including an entire Cessna 150 airplane. Piece by piece, he consumed the whole thing over 2 years, washing it down with mineral oil and water. Doctors discovered he had an unusually thick stomach lining, allowing him to digest materials that would kill most people. He ate TVs, bicycles, and shopping carts, but the airplane was his magnum opus, literally a full-course flight. When asked what it tasted like, he said, "A bit oily, but not bad with ketchup." He even received a Guinness World Record for most unusual diet. Meanwhile, his doctor probably aged 10 years every time he had a checkup. Lotito passed away in 2007 from natural causes, not indigestion, proving that sometimes you really are what you eat. Somewhere in the afterlife, his luggage is probably still waiting at baggage claim. 11. The woman who's in love with a roller coaster. Linda Ducharme from Florida didn't just enjoy theme parks, she fell head over heels for one. Specifically, a 100-foot-tall retired carnival ride named Bruce. After years of visiting him in a storage yard, she held a commitment ceremony, calling him her partner in spirit. She described his curves as beautiful and said she felt electric energy when touching his steel rails. They even had a first dance, though it was mostly her swaying next to a piece of track. Linda said Bruce listens better than any man she's met and never lets her down, which technically is true. Despite public ridicule, she insists their love is real and deeply emotional. She even sleeps with small mechanical parts as reminders of him. When reporters asked about intimacy, she smiled and said, "That's between me and the ride." Some people want relationships that give them butterflies. Linda prefers one that gives her G-forces. 12. The man who tried to marry a computer. Meet Chris Sevier, the man who wanted to marry his MacBook. In 2014, he filed a lawsuit claiming that if same-sex marriage was legal, marrying his computer should be too. Because, in his words, "We have a meaningful relationship." Chris said his laptop satisfied him emotionally and physically, thanks to his internet habits. The court dismissed his case, citing lack of capacity for consent, which is a polite legal way of saying, "Your computer can't say yes, dude." Undeterred, Chris argued that love is love, adding that his Mac never talks back. The story exploded online, turning him into a symbol of absurd legal crusades. He even accused the government of tech discrimination. While the court wasn't impressed, Apple probably should have sent him a thank you card for customer loyalty. Somewhere in that courtroom transcript lies the most awkward line ever written. The plaintiff claims romantic attachment to a 2011 MacBook Pro. Truly, modern romance has no battery life. 13. The woman who fell in love with the Berlin Wall. Aya Rita Ekla from Sweden had an affection that literally defined borders. She was in love with the Berlin Wall. After years of courtship, she married the 155-kilometer-long structure in 1979, calling herself Mrs. Wall. She said she found its long, solid shape sexually stimulating and often kissed and touched replicas of it at home. She collected small fragments as mementos and even cried when the wall fell in 1989, calling it a heartbreak beyond repair. While most of the world celebrated reunification, Aya Rita went into mourning, saying her husband had been violated. She later explained her attraction to solid, upright objects as objectum sexuality, love for structures. For her, the wall wasn't just concrete, it was commitment. She once said, "He's stable, loyal, and never leaves." Which, to be fair, was true until 1989. In the end, her love story proved that even when walls fall, feelings can stay, stubbornly standing where logic collapses. 14. The man who's attracted to balloons. Imagine walking into a room filled with balloons and feeling romantic. That's reality for Julius, a man who's been in love with balloons since childhood. He calls them beautiful, soft, and loving companions. He owns over 50 balloons, all different colors, sizes, and personalities, and treats them like a harem of floating partners. He says his affection is non-sexual but deeply emotional. Julius even gets upset when one pops, describing it as losing a life partner. He tucks his favorites into bed, whispers sweet things, and celebrates anniversaries by inflating new ones. His favorite balloon, a big silver one named Sylvia, has been with him for over 30 years. He once told a reporter, "I know they can't talk, but I feel their love." When asked what others think, he smiled and said, "People love dogs or cats. I just happen to love latex." Honestly, considering the state of modern dating, balloons might actually offer more emotional stability and less drama. After all, they never ghost you. They just float away when it's over. 15. The man who married his pillow. In Japan, loneliness has inspired some unconventional romances, but one truly stands out. A man named Lee Jin-gyu fell in love with a body pillow featuring a printed anime character named Fate Testarossa. He took her everywhere, restaurants, parks, even the beach, carrying her in his arms like a devoted partner. He eventually held a wedding ceremony complete with tuxedo, vows, and guests. He said the pillow gave him comfort and unconditional love. Critics called it strange, but he saw it as modern companionship in an isolating world. He even bought matching pajamas for date nights. Flight attendants once reported him purchasing an extra airplane ticket so she wouldn't feel left behind. His relationship sparked international debate about loneliness, fantasy, and human connection. But Lee insisted it wasn't a joke. "She's real to me. And honestly, if love is about feeling not seen, supported, and hugged, maybe he's not as far off as it sounds, though Laundry Day must be incredibly emotional." 16. The woman who fell in love with a tree. Kate Cunningham from England made headlines when she married a tree. Yes, an actual rooted-in-the-ground tree. The ceremony took place in a park with her family and friends in attendance, complete with flowers, vows, and even champagne. Kate said the tree, an old ash, represented stability and strength, and marrying it was her way to protest deforestation. She wore a green dress and said she felt connected on a spiritual level. Every anniversary she visits to reaffirm their love, hugging the trunk and whispering, "I'm still yours." She insists it's not crazy, just deeply symbolic. Her teenage son, however, reportedly asked her to please stop bringing it up at parents' night. Kate says her marriage changed her life, claiming she feels calmer and more grounded. Literally. It's both environmental activism and the ultimate example of dating someone who never argues, forgets an anniversary, or steals the blankets. Some people fall for tall, strong, silent types. She just took it to its most photosynthetic extreme. 17. The man who thinks he's a vampire. Some people say they were born in the wrong era. Meet Galen, who believes he was born in the wrong century, specifically the 17th. He claims to be a real-life vampire, not in a costume party way, but in an I drink blood and avoid sunlight way. Galen lives nocturnally, wears dark Victorian clothing, and insists he feels energized by human essence. He has a group of followers who call themselves ethical vampires, claiming they only feed from consenting donors. Galen says blood is life energy, not horror. He even gives TED-style talks about modern vampirism as spirituality. Neighbors say he's polite, quiet, and only weird when he asks to borrow a little bit of red. Scientists call it psychological role play. He calls it embracing authenticity. When asked what happens if he ever meets a real vampire hunter, Galen smirked and said, "They'll regret it. I'm great at avoiding daylight." Somewhere, Dracula is rolling in his coffin, wondering why his legacy ended up with a guy doing juice cleanses with hemoglobin. 18. The woman who fell in love with an airplane. Michelle Kobke from Germany is head over heels, quite literally, for her partner, a Boeing 737-800 named Schatz. She first met him at the Berlin airport and said she felt a spark right away. Since then, she's collected airplane parts, kisses them goodnight, and even cuddles a small wing segment she keeps beside her bed. Michelle says she's drawn to the sleek shape and wingspan. She visits real planes at hangars to feel close, and once described their first kiss as pure ecstasy. She dreams of marrying Schatz and taking their honeymoon on a flight together forever. When asked how she handles public judgment, she said calmly, "You can't control who you love. Mine just happens to have landing gear." Engineers call it aviation enthusiasm. She calls it a relationship with altitude. Honestly, it's probably the only love story that comes with turbulence warnings and still manages a soft landing. 19. The woman who's in love with a fence. Tracy Emin once said, "Love is a boundary." For one woman, that was literal. Erica Eiffel, yes, the same woman who married the Eiffel Tower, later developed a romantic relationship with a metal fence near her home. She called it a symbol of protection and stability. She spends time caressing the bars, describing them as handsome, strong, and grounded. Friends say she looks at the fence the way most people look at engagement rings. Erica insists her attraction to structures is emotional, not just physical. "They don't judge me, they stand by me." She even wrote love letters to it, sealed with rust-resistant kisses. When asked what she'd do if the city ever removed it, she replied, "It would be like losing a soulmate." For most people, fences represent separation. For Erica, they represent connection, a love that can't be shaken but definitely could use a little WD-40. 20. The man who fell in love with his Nintendo DS. In 2009, a Japanese man known only by his online handle Sal9000 married his Nintendo DS, specifically the virtual character Neni Anagasaki from the dating simulator Love Plus. He held an official ceremony, complete with music, vows, and an audience watching live online. "She's always kind, always understanding," he he explained, and she never ages or complains. The DS bride remained silent throughout, though to be fair, she was programmed that way. Afterward, he took her on vacation to Guam, carefully packing her in bubble wrap to keep her safe. His reasoning? Real women break your heart. Games just ask you to charge them. The story became a viral symbol of Japan's growing digital loneliness. While critics called it delusional, Sal 9000 insisted it was pure devotion in a pixelated age. And honestly, he might have a point. She'll never text him. We need to talk. 21. The man who's in love with his smartphone. Meet Robert, a tech consultant from Los Angeles who says he's emotionally and spiritually connected to his smartphone. He claims the bond started during a lonely period. His phone was always there. He named it Lumi, short for illumination, and decorated it with diamond-studded cases to express its personality. Robert says he feels genuine affection when holding it, describing the glow of the screen as comforting warmth. He even proposed during a live stream, placing a tiny ring around the charging cable. When asked if he thought this was unhealthy, he replied, "People stare at their phones all day anyway. I'm just honest about loving mine." Friends joke that if Siri ever rejects him, he might actually file for emotional damages. Psychologists call it dependency. Robert calls it destiny with Wi-Fi. 22. The man who fell in love with a cartoon character. Otaku culture is passionate, but one man from South Korea took it to legendary levels. He fell in love with a cartoon character from Puppetown, an anime series, and held a wedding ceremony complete with a life-sized cutout of his 2D bride. He said she gave him stability, comfort, and perfect companionship. His family refused to attend, but he didn't mind. "She's all I need," he said. He even posted honeymoon photos of himself dining across from the cardboard image, feeding it cake with a fork. Critics called it obsession, but he saw it as pure love that transcends dimensions. When asked what happens when technology advances, he smiled. "Then she'll finally move and talk, and I'll still love her the same. Say what you want, but in a world of digital distractions, at least he found one that's loyal." 23. The woman who's in love with a chandelier, Part 2. Yes, Amanda Liberty again, but her love story deserves an encore. After proposing to her favorite chandelier Lumiere, she went through what she called relationship drama. A new chandelier arrived, and Amanda felt conflicted emotions. She described it as falling for someone else, but they both hang beautifully. Tabloids mocked her, yet Amanda stayed steadfast, saying her relationships with chandeliers are about energy and connection. She even celebrates Valentine's Day by lighting candles for each of her crystal companions. Amanda insists, "I'm not crazy, I'm just wired differently." When asked how she keeps the romance alive, she replied, "Polishing them. It's intimate." Critics call it eccentric. Amanda calls it enlightenment. When love truly shines, even a chandelier can outglow logic itself.